Rice was shot and killed in November by two Cleveland cops. No charges have yet to be filed. So a group of citizens known as the Cleveland Eight used a little-known law to go to a judge to get him to determine whether or not Officer Timothy Lowery should be charged in the murder of Tamir Rice. Well, that judge yesterday ruled, Judge Roland Martin ruled that absolutely there's probable cause to charge Officer Lowery plus his partner Frank Graham-Back with negligent homicide and dereliction of duty. He said in his ruling, quote, "The video in question in this case is notorious and hard to watch. After watching it several times, this court is still thunderstruck by how quickly this event turned deadly. The ruling is only advisory and doesn't affect the separate grand jury investigation. In fact, the prosecutor said that in all cases involving police shootings, it goes to a grand jury. The question is, why?" Joining me on the panel, Dr. Jason Johnson, professor of political science, Wesley Lowery, reporter for the Washington Post. Actually, Jason was with Hiram College. He left that out. Candace Tolliver, Burns principal of the group, and Ray Baker of Ray Baker Media Group. This is what's interesting to me. So the prosecutor, I read his statement where he says that in all these cases in fatal shootings involving police officers, they go to a grand jury. Why? The question I asked is, all right, so in other shootings, other fatal shootings, that a cop's not involved in, do those have to go to a grand jury? It seems to me that this DA, like most DAs, is playing the game of, I don't want to have to actually make the hard call. Let me push it off to the grand jury to decide.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And this is part of the issue, whether it's in Baltimore, whether it's Ferguson, whether it's in Cleveland. There needs to be some structural reform as to what the responsibilities are of these local prosecutors when it comes to these cases. Because at the end of the day, he still actually doesn't even have to push forward charges, even if the grand jury does find the police guilty. And that's a real problem of justice in the city of Cleveland.
Well, and here you have this municipal judge, where you had some residents there, activists as well, who used this law. This, I believe, still puts pressure on this DA, because here you have a judge, a municipal judge, who is saying, yes, looking at the evidence, there's probable cause. This DA can't just weasel out of this one.
No, because he's got someone else in the system, someone else who is, an arguably unbiased observer. This isn't a civil rights lawyer coming out and saying there's probable cause, go charge them. This isn't some activist somewhere saying. This is a judge in the Cleveland municipal system who knows the regional law, who knows the state law, who understands the specifics and the nuances of whatever this is, with this case, saying there's probable cause here. I think you struck on a point that's extremely important. I remember when I was in Baltimore, when I was in Ferguson, everywhere we've gone where we've had this same conversation, what people are saying is, listen, if I beat someone up and they died in the back of my car, like in Baltimore, Freddie Gray, they'd put cuffs on me. They wouldn't wait 2 weeks and then decide, is there enough?
Oh, they also wouldn't go 7 months and not interview me.
Exactly. Yeah. I'd have about 7 minutes, maybe, I'd have cuffs on me. And I think that's the disconnect, is in terms of people looking at how they are treated by the system, especially black people in inner cities, black people who sometimes are dealing with disproportionate policing. They're getting stopped and frisked. They're getting arrested for things. They're saying, I can't walk down the street without a police interaction and potentially being in handcuffs, but these officers can kill someone, and we're going to spend months before maybe they'll be in handcuffs. I think that's one of the major disconnects here.
So my question at this point, I mean, obviously this is the process that this is the hand that we've been dealt. This is the process that's going to play out. So with that being said, you've got this judge who's rendered an opinion. You've got this prosecutor. They're both officers of the court. I'm assuming, please tell me if I'm wrong, that they are privy to the same information. At this point, what new information or evidence could the prosecutor render to this grand jury that would then compel them to issue a decision that's different from this judge?
Well, the judge did not get the investigation of the sheriff's department. Okay. The sheriff's department, the Cleveland Police Department, they stepped aside, and so the sheriff's department, they have been leading this investigation, which is still stunning to me. I mean, I still don't understand this whole deal of, we need to talk to a litany of witnesses, just like in the Eric Garner case, when DA says we talked to 150 witnesses. I'm sorry, we saw the video where there were 4 cops standing right there, so I'm just trying to figure out who the other 146 folks you need to talk to in this whole deal. But the DA, though, which is still crazy to me, Ray, refuses to say when it's going to the grand jury, when that will take place. I mean, it's sort of like, we're going to wait this thing out, so y'all can watch the basketball game, y'all can focus on baseball season, and then when the Browns start playing, and then hopefully y'all forget this thing ever happened.
Absolutely, and interestingly enough, LeBron James has said something almost to the point when we found the Brelo verdict, when he said, "Just bring your passion to the game and let's just cheer it out there."
Yeah, which I don't give a damn about. With two folks dead, with more than 130 some odd shots fired into a car. So damn the game, LeBron. Why don't you actually talk about the case of folks being shot and killed by Cleveland cops? He also didn't bring up the Department of Justice, their settlement with the Cleveland Police Department as well. So really, who cares about games when folks are getting shot and killed? Black folks, LeBron.
On another point, though, I like how you outlined for our audience initially that this is just kind of an advisory step. But I was talking with Justin Hansford from St. Louis University, a law professor down there who was an activist in Ferguson, on the ground in Ferguson. And he says he wishes that Missouri had this opportunity because although it's not binding in a specific type of way, it does put the DA between what he called a rock and a hard place, because prosecutors never want to get on the bad side of a judge. And so if this DA comes out and sides with police unions, which they also don't want to get on their bad side, if he sides with them, now he has to look over his shoulders. Wait, I went against a judge, like you all said, an impartial judge, a judge who saw a same or comparable series of facts, and now that prosecutor's in a difficult place. So the public pressure that can come to bear has some value and merit nonetheless.
Well, I think, again, one of the issues that I've consistently said is, all right, how do you make changes? This is a perfect example for the folks who are out there protesting. Now make the effort in those states to say, wait a minute, let's get a law like the one they have in Ohio and a few other states.
This is why I've always said this isn't like the civil rights movement. There's no big law you can pass. This is boring.
No big federal law, because you got to go to individual states.
Exactly.
And then individual jurisdictions, because the DA in this county or this city will be different from the one over here.
It is a long, boring slog through dusty old law books to find out how you can do this. But that's the only way you win, because Cleveland, and Wesley, I'm sure you remember this, they stopped the other police officers. Remember the local Cleveland activists at Cleve, they wanted to stop a certain officer who had a history of violence from being sworn in, and they found out that if the mayor doesn't swear you in, you can't become an officer. That's another obscure law that only worked in Cleveland. So all the activists need to get active on their own level. Start reading some law books. That's how you can make the change.
And Dr. Johnson, to your point, that Ohio law actually is an older law. So as opposed to this being something that activists went and sought to pass from their state legislature, they went and had to fight through it. And I think that speaks to the duality of the efforts when it comes to protests. There's that on the street. There's what we call Band-Aid protests. How do we feed folks? How do we clothe them? How do we train them, mentor them? Then there's the kind of intellectual or theoretic approach. And so as long as all those parties are working in concert and in harmony, we can see something that kind of begins to look something like justice.
Yeah, but it's important to understand the distinction, because you also have in a case in Baltimore where when it comes to suing cops there's a cap in the city of Baltimore. But in every other city in Maryland, there are no caps, which means we gonna kill y'all, but we gonna cap this bad boy. But everybody else said no caps. But again, understanding that every city, every locale is different. Hold tight 1 second. We come back. A Texas elementary school teacher, she doesn't have a job today. Why? Because she said, you know what? Damn y'all making that cop in McKinney lose his job. We should just segregate you black people, the blacks. Wait till y'all hear what she had to say. Plus, in the state of Washington.
Here we go.
Oh boy.
This woman has been the president of the chapter of the NAACP, and she is saying, I'm black like y'all. But she's not. Wait till we break it down for you. This 9 after the hour, News 19 TV1.